Hello and welcome, Minnesota Farah. We are genuinely very happy to have you with us for our daily coverage of the NFL news. Please subscribe to our channel to support our initiative as we bring to you the latest updates from the world of NFL on a daily basis. Now let's dive deep into our news stories.
Welcome to the NFL News Roundup, where we dive deep into the latest league updates from today. I'm your host, and we've got a packed lineup of news from around the NFL today, so let's jump right in. Times 1. Arizona Cardinals roster moves. The Arizona Cardinals are making some moves. Linebacker Devin Kennard has been elevated to the active roster from the practice squad. Joining him is cornerback Jace Whittaker. These roster adjustments could have a significant impact on the team's performance. Now, let's move on to our next news. Times 2. Atlanta Falcons roster moves. The Atlanta Falcons are also shuffling their roster. Running back Caleb Huntley is now on the active roster from the practice squad, and defensive lineman Abdullah Anderson joins him. The Falcons are looking to bolster their lineup, and these moves could be pivotal. Now, on to the next update. Times 3. Baltimore Ravens roster shakeup. The Baltimore Ravens have some changes too. Wide receiver Raleigh Webb and defensive back Darrell Worley have been elevated to the active roster from the practice squad. It's all about fine-tuning that lineup for success. But wait, there's more. Times 4. Buffalo Bills injury report. Turning our attention to the Buffalo Bills, there are some injury concerns. Wide receiver Gabe Davis has popped up on the injury report with an ankle issue, and he's listed as questionable against the Titans. Meanwhile, defensive lineman Ed Oliver has been ruled out due to missing practice all week. Tim Settle is also listed as doubtful, and cornerback Dane Jackson is back in practice, but still questionable. Injuries can be game changers in the NFL. Speaking of game changers, there are fines to discuss. Times 5. Fines for Stefon Diggs and Dane Jackson. Wide receiver Stefon Diggs has been fined $10,609 for unsportsmanlike conduct after taunting Rams cornerback Jalen Ramsey during last week's season opener. Additionally, cornerback Dane Jackson received a fine of $4,972 for taunting in Week 1. These fines are a reminder that sportsmanship matters in the NFL. Now, on to our next story. Times 6. Chicago Bears roster moves. The Chicago Bears are making moves too. Offensive lineman Dieter Iserlin has been elevated to the active roster from the practice squad. Roster adjustments can sometimes be the secret to success. But speaking of secrets, there are some fines that are no secret at all. Times 7. Fines for Ja'Marr Chase. Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver Ja'Marr Chase is in the spotlight, not for his performance but for fines. He's been fined twice for unsportsmanlike conduct in last week's loss to the Steelers. The first fine was $13,261 and the second, $10,609. These fines serve as a reminder of the NFL's commitment to fair play. Times 8. Carolina Panthers fines. The Carolina Panthers are also dealing with fines. Defensive end Brian Burns was fined $15,914 for a roughing the passer penalty late in last week's loss to the Browns. Maintaining discipline on the field is crucial. Now, let's switch gears to some roster moves. Times 9. Cleveland Browns roster moves. The Cleveland Browns are adjusting their roster. Linebacker Jordan Kunasik and defensive tackle Roderick Perry too have been elevated to the active roster from the practice squad. Roster changes like these can impact game strategies significantly. But that's not all. There's more news from the NFC East. Times 10. Dallas Cowboys signings and injuries. The Dallas Cowboys have made some notable moves. They've brought quarterback Cooper Rush and kicker Brett Maher up from the practice squad. However, defensive end Terrell Basham has been placed on injured reserve with a thigh injury. Quarterback Will Grier and center Alec Lindstrom have also been elevated from the practice squad. And the Cowboys have cut defensive tackle John Ridgeway. These changes show how dynamic the NFL can be. Times 11. Denver Broncos roster adjustments. The Denver Broncos are tweaking their lineup as well. Wide receiver Kendall Hinton and offensive guard Netane Muti have been elevated to the active roster from the practice squad. Roster moves like these can reshape a team's performance. Times 12. Fines in Detroit Lions camp. The Detroit Lions have some fine-worthy behavior on their hands. Offensive guard Jonah Jackson has been downgraded to doubtful for Sunday's game against Washington due to a finger injury. On the disciplinary front, safety Tracy Walker has been fined $11,139 for unnecessary roughness, following an incident in last week's game against the Eagles. Times 13. Green Bay Packers roster moves. The Green Bay Packers are making changes too. Running back Patrick Taylor has been elevated to the active roster from the practice squad. These roster moves are part of the ongoing strategy to optimize team performance. Times 14. Roster shuffles in Houston Texans. The Houston Texans are shuffling their roster as well. Quarterback Jeff Driscoll and wide receiver Chris Conley have been elevated to the active roster from the practice squad. The Texans are looking to find the right combination for success. Times 15. Indianapolis Colts injury update. Turning our attention to the Indianapolis Colts, there's an injury update. Wide receiver Michael Pittman, who had been listed as questionable with the quad injury, has been downgraded to out for their game against the Jaguars. In response, wide receiver Keek Cowdy and kicker Chase McLaughlin have been elevated from the practice squad. It's all about adaptability in the NFL. Times 16. Las Vegas Raiders roster moves. The Las Vegas Raiders have some roster adjustments of their own. Offensive guard Alex Bars and safety Matthias Farley have been elevated to the active roster from the practice squad. Every player counts in the quest for victory. Times 17. Roster changes in Los Angeles Rams camp. The Los Angeles Rams are also making some moves. Wide receiver Jacob Harris has been elevated to the active roster from the practice squad. It's all about finding the right pieces to the puzzle. Times 18. Fines for Justin Hollins. In the world of fines, linebacker Justin Hollins has been fined $5,361 for a horse collar tackle on Bills tight end Dawson Knox during Week 1. These fines highlight the importance of playing within the rules. Times 19. Miami Dolphins injury update. The Miami Dolphins are dealing with injuries. Tight end Hunter Long has been downgraded to out for their game against Baltimore due to an ankle injury. In response, offensive tackle Larnell Coleman and wide receiver River Cracraft have been elevated to the active roster from the practice squad. Injuries can be a real game changer in the NFL. Times 20. New England Patriots injury update. The New England Patriots have their own injury concerns. Safety Joshua Bledsoe, initially listed as questionable with a groin injury, has been downgraded to out for their game against the Steelers. It's all about managing those injuries effectively. That's a wrap on the